IRS notice CP14 is the most common IRS notice that the taxpayers receive, and I will walk you through this notice, explain why you receive it, and what steps you should take. Hi, I am Olena Ruth. I am tax attorney and founder of Ruth Tax Law, and I created this channel to help people to understand and resolve the tax problems with confidence. So let's take stress out of this process together. Notice CP14 is the IRS first letter stating that you owe the tax balance. It's also called balance due notice. The IRS basically tells you that they formally put the tax due balance on their record, and now they can begin collection and the penalties and interest begin accruing. The notice CP14 would be issued if you filed the tax return but didn't pay the full amount, the IRS made an adjustment to your account, or you ignored the IRS notice that proposed another assessment or additional assessment to your account, or you settled the case in a tax court, or you lost the tax court case, and thus IRS got the right to assess the tax balance. So the good news is that the CP14 notice is an early stage notice, and you still have time to resolve the issue. So what steps you should take when you receive notice CP14? First, understand what the notice is about, what year-end balances are involved. Second, decide what actions to take to resolve the balance. And third, making sure that you do not ignore the notice because you can have bad consequences. So let's talk now about how we read the notice. And I already have one video about how to read IRS notice that actually explains in detail all the main elements of the IRS letters, and I will leave a link below under this video, but we will just in brief, we'll talk about specifically CP14 notice. So first you need to make sure that IRS is referencing the correct year. So often it's the year shown at the top of the page. And also you need to make sure that what balance is included on the notice and whether that balance is the one that was reported on your tax return, or maybe IRS actually added something else. And you will see that CP14 notice also has would add penalties and interest. So you reviewed the CP14 notice and you determined that you understand the balance on the notice. You agree with the balance. You do not have any grounds to challenge the balance, but and you consider that the balance is manageable. So in this case, I would recommend just go ahead and pay off the balance and move on with your life. Then you will avoid all the accruing penalties and interest, and you will not need to stress out about potential levies, garnishments, and tax levies. Well, however, there are cases when you actually have a large balance and it's not manageable and you just financially not capable to pay it in full. Well, then you have several options. You can set up an installment agreement, long-term or short-term. You also can ask for a temporary collection hold called currently non-collectible status, which is the hold that IRS will agree to set on your account if you have a financial hardship. Or you can consider whether you are eligible for the settlement, so-called offer in compromise, which is, if approved by the IRS, will allow you to make just a partial payment and then have removed the remaining liability. Now, there are also cases when you reviewed the notice and you do not know what the balance is, why there is a balance, or you disagree with that balance. Well, in that case, you have a right to protest to the IRS or to challenge the liability, or you also can ask there to remove the penalties. It's called abatement of the penalties. Again, it all depends, and it depends on your review of the IRS notice. So here is a big question. Do I need help of tax professional to resolve the balance that you have? Well, my answer will be it depends. So if you agree with the balance, if the balance is relatively small and you are thinking about paying it in full or maybe setting up a short-term installment agreement or a simple installment agreement, particularly that would be applicable for the balances under $50,000, you certainly can do it by yourself, either by calling IRS or setting up a payment plan online. Also, some of the tax return preparers and CPAs, they help out with the simple issues. However, if you are not sure why you received notice CP14, you disagree with the balance that the IRS assessed against you, or the balance is large and you're worrying about tax levies, garnishments, and tax liens, then it's better to have a consultation with a tax professional. And don't worry if you avoided the issue for a long time. I'm a tax attorney. I'm dealing with people who are setting aside the IRS issues or problems for a long time. So it's better to have a short consult and have some peace of mind what can be done. And if you can do it by yourself, we always will tell you and explain how to do it. But we also will include the videos that will explain your options on this channel. So can you just ignore CP14 notice? Well, ignoring CP14 notice will not make the tax and IRS disappear. Thus, it's not the best option for you. So remember, now by issuing CP14 notice, IRS put you on notice about your balance due, and they want you to make the payment or some type of an arrangement in order to resolve that balance. Therefore, if you do not take any action after you receive CP14 notice, you will start receiving several notices from the IRS. IRS will send CP501 notice to remind you about the balance. CP503 notice will bring a little bit more urgency to you about your balance due. CP504 notice will urge you to pay the balance, otherwise you will be at risk of levies and garnishments. And if by that time you did not resolve your tax balance by making the payment or proposing some type of collection alternative, the IRS will issue collection final notice that will give the legal right to the IRS to levy your bank accounts or garnish your paycheck if you do not protest the final notice within 30 days. So the IRS also can file the notice of federal tax lien on your tax balance with the county clerk and recorder, which is a public notice notifying a public that you have a balance due, and the IRS can certify your tax balance by preventing you to obtaining or renewing your U.S. passport. And in a worst case scenario, you also can have your U.S. passport revoked. Thus, you not only are at risk of levies, garnishments, tax liens, but also not being able to travel abroad. The bottom line is that don't panic when you receive CP14 notice. However, remember that ignoring the notice will not make the tax balance disappear. So do not panic, but make sure that you make a decision what you want to do on an early stage, because then you will have more flexibility, more time to resolve the balance and to get the IRS off your shoulder. So let's sum up our video, and here's your action plan if you receive CP14 notice. First, carefully review the notice and understand what year involved and what balances are involved. Second, decide what you're going to do, whether you're going to make the payment in full, set up an installment agreement, other collection alternative, or challenge liability, or request some type of relief. Don't ignore the notice. The sooner you act, the more options you have. And most importantly, remember, you do not have to deal with the tax notice on your own. I work with my clients across the United States who actually receive this type of letters and don't know where to start. One consultation can save you time, stress, and in some cases even money. So do not hesitate to contact me or any other tax professional with your questions. In the meantime, I will continue working on new videos for you to explain different tax problems so you understand them and know how to resolve them on your own, or to know when you should actually contact the tax professional. So take care and take your action. Thank you.